Good to go. Go ahead, Lucy.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining the Tech Academy's Tech Talk. Today, we're joined by Katie McIntyre from Career Sprout. She's a consultant and just helps people transition into new careers. This talk is going to be recorded and posted onto our YouTube channel. I'll provide links to that towards the end of the talk. And there's going to be a Q&A section towards the end. So feel free to leave any questions you have just in the chat box. Thanks so much for being here, Katie. You can just take it away.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in here because we typically this presentation is about 2 hours for a workshop. So we have done our best to cut it down to about 45 minutes or less, hopefully, so that you guys have plenty of time to ask questions at the end. So can you guys see my slides right now? Let's see.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. All right, then we will make them big. I can't see you guys, so any questions or things that you have, yeah, we will make sure we cover them at the end, or if you guys as hosts can help me out if there's something that is super important and you're unmuted, just let me know that way. Awesome. So we are going to go through how to build the perfect resume to get recruiters and hiring managers reaching out to you. And actually the perfect resume and LinkedIn profile. As I mentioned, this has been condensed quite a bit, so we are going to go through here pretty quickly, but since you guys have the recording, don't panic. A lot of them are just going to be, hey, go back and watch the recording and pause on the screen so that you can get access to everything. So this is for you if you are actively getting ready or you are currently applying to jobs and you want recruiters and hiring managers to reach out to you with the exact roles that you are applying for. It's for you if you don't want to waste hours applying to a ton of jobs and not getting responses. And if you want to get your foot in the door with companies you actually admire. We really focus and hone in on people who want to build meaningful careers. So it's not just about getting your next job. It's about making sure you are setting yourself up for a meaningful career that you are really going to enjoy and find fulfillment in. So in the next 45 minutes, as I mentioned, hopefully we can do it in a bit less than that. We're going to go through the exact steps to build your resume and LinkedIn profile, a few secrets that recruiters don't talk to you about, and how the ingredients that go into your resume and how to transfer them onto LinkedIn. Pretty much everything you need to know about optimizing your resume so you can land $10,000 to $100,000 plus pay increases depending on your experience, using proven, predictable, repeatable systems instead of guesswork and rejection. So I do like to have a few house rules here where this is not about, okay, how do you get a pay raise or how do you get these jobs undeservingly or trick your company into thinking you have all this experience that you don't. This is about being able to articulate how you can provide real value. So it's really important you're happy, humble, and hungry to actually solve problems and provide value. If not, that does not sound like you, probably not a great use of your time, and now is probably a good time to hop off. Also, just want to point out that our clients' results are not typical of average people, because we are showing you people that are actually implementing the stuff that you guys learn. A lot of people, majority of people will come to a workshop like this and they will learn a ton of valuable information and then it just kind of sits on the shelf like a book. These people actually put effort in 3 to 5 hours each week and did the work. So you guys are going to have access to everything that you need. The results that you are going to get are entirely up to you. So does this sound like you? You should be in a position right now, if you're switching jobs, you should feel like you should be getting paid more, or you could be worth more than what you're getting paid. You just need some extra guidance to get there. Or if you are applying for jobs, but you're not exactly sure what best practices are, you should have done a little bit of research at this point. And you're probably seeing that there's a ton of contradicting advice online about how to apply, especially in today's market where it's more candidate driven. Or you are trying to figure out which companies are right for you, which companies have growth potential versus just capping you or promoting people based on politics, which nobody likes. Or if you are in a position where you know that there's a lot of growth opportunities, you're just not sure which growth opportunities are right for you. So any of these things that come up, typically means that you are stuck in the old model of doing things. And today, what we're going to talk about is the new model that is predictable and puts you in control of your career and your career trajectory. And when you move to this new model, that means you have control over who you work with, how you work with them, and the salary that you command. So you will literally future-proof your career, so you don't have to worry about getting rejected in interviews or getting laid off. You are going to have everything that you need to consistently land high-paying jobs at each transition point of your life, which means your life is far less stressful and significantly more enjoyable because you'll be able to land jobs and build a meaningful career where you're leveraging your strengths. You're focusing on the mission, the purpose that you want to have in this life. So the best part about this model is it's proven and it's predictable, which means I know with 100% certainty whether or not somebody has followed each of the steps because it works every single time. That means you don't have to worry about saying yes to the first offer. You don't have to keep editing your resume over and over again and wonder why it's not working. You are going to be able to do it once, and then you will have multiple opportunities and multiple offers from companies. That's how you will get this successfully. So real quick, what is the old model and why is it so broken? A lot of you, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because a lot of you are either experiencing this now, or you have watched your parents experience it, or your friends are experiencing it, where you pick a career. A lot of times, most times, you go through a honeymoon phase. Some people skip that and they don't like it from the get-go. And then there's a period of stagnation where during this time, you are pretty much looking at your life and saying, okay, whether you're 4 years or 14 years into a 40-year career, you have the option to accept where you're at or do something. So a lot of people, when they try to accept it, it means that they've got an unbalanced life, they're stressed out, they're unfulfilled. And if they try to pivot, it's either going to be lateral or they're going back to entry-level positions. So what they try to do is network, apply, interview, and negotiate. And again, because there's so much contradictory information out there, those things are really hard to do. And so a lot of people end up settling because they feel like they have to. They watch other people pass them by, they end up retiring. And one of the biggest regrets of people in retirement and on their deathbed is looking back and realizing they never looked at their life holistically. They never mapped their career so that it fit into their life. They always had to live their life with what was left after they go 9 to 5 or beyond that work that they did, and they didn't nearly reach the potential that they could have. So a lot of that comes from these 4 steps here, where when you go through the application process and each of the steps of it, it's incredibly hard to know the simplest, quickest way to do that. And oftentimes what happens is people don't know their worth, which makes it even harder. And this is a great example that we'll reference a couple times throughout this, where in 2022, this happened just about a month or so ago now. A lot of you, I'm sure, saw it. It went pretty viral, where a recruiter posted that she offered a candidate $85,000 for a job that had a budget of $130,000. Now, this happens all the time, again, because people don't know their worth, and because they get stuck in these 4 steps, by the time they get to the negotiation phase, it's terrifying because you don't want to have to start over from scratch. And so people end up settling because they don't know their worth. So we make sure that never happens. And moving forward today, if that's ever happened to you or you've been in that spot, probably not your fault, but moving forward, you are now going to be equipped with the tools to make sure that that also never happens to you. And here are a couple of examples. And as I mentioned, normally we go through specific steps in here with each of these examples, but I just want to highlight Zach for you guys. I think he's probably the most relevant. He is somebody that with 0 years of tech experience was able to get to 7 figures in under 4 years because he did 2 things. One, he improved on his software engineering skills. He took a course similar to you guys are doing right now. And then second, he enrolled in career coaching to make sure that he was doing the right things to get his foot into the right doors. That's very important here. So it does not matter if you're transitioning, if you're brand new to the career world or you are transitioning from another industry into this tech world, it is very possible for you to have extremely rapid growth if you follow the process and if you know where you're growing to. And real quick, why should you listen to a word I say? My name's Katie. I am a Forbes Coaches Council member, but more importantly, I work with Career Sprout, where we have helped over 500 professionals land high-paying job offers. On average, it takes us about 63 days from start to finish, and the average student increases their salary by about $37,000. Most importantly, they're setting themselves up for growth. So it's not just about the financial growth of this first job, it's setting them up for meaningful growth beyond just this first job. And I'm also not one of those gurus that talks about myself all day. That is actually the last slide about me. And everything we do is focused on our students. So you'll see as we go through this, quite a few examples of people. This is not to impress you, it is to impress upon you what is possible if you can kind of get out of your own way and implement what you guys are going to learn today. So again, this is somebody who went into a brand new industry, went from $80,000 to $170,000 because she leveraged what you guys are going to learn. And somebody else took her 2 months to go from 115 to 140, going into a brand new career field. It's just about implementation. And somebody else, this is one of my favorite examples, she had never made $200,000 before. And if you notice here, she was offered $218,000. We talked about how we never settle or let people get less than what they're actually worth. Even though she had never made $200,000 before, she still negotiated that up to $235,000. So that is literally the tip of the iceberg. As I mentioned, we've helped a ton of people do this just in the last 3 years alone, using this 5-step process. So how does your resume fit into this process? And arguably more importantly, how important is your resume in your job? So 95% of your resume and the work that you put into your resume is going to come from what we call your career Nirvana Map. And that is step 1 of the process. A lot of people love to just jump right into the resume and try to perfect that. It is impossible for you to build a good resume without first having your career Nirvana mapped out. So what does that look like? Let's, for example's sake, say you want to be a chief product officer. What you want to do is map out what are the steps that are going to get you there. It doesn't matter. You can insert whether you want to be a CFO or a chief technology officer or whatever. Even if you don't want to be a C-level executive, if you want to be a senior level, whatever you are aiming for, 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, you want to know what you're aiming for. Because everything that we do from this point forward we want to be able to say, does this move me closer to my goals or does this move me further from my goals? And without knowing where we're aiming for, you will just keep going from job to job to job and keep feeling unfulfilled. And you will have to keep tweaking your resume, keep tweaking all of these things. And it's just a ton of work that all of it goes away if you know what you're aiming for and the steps that are going to get you there. So once you've picked out, hey, here's where I think I want to go. This is the level I think I want, in the field I want, in the industry that I want. Then you go research people, right? So let's say you do want to be a chief product officer is the example I used here. Here, you want to go research about a dozen of them. This is one of the chief product officers for Google, for YouTube specifically. And you want to research these people. He was somebody who literally got $100 million just to not go to Twitter. Now, maybe this is not your goals. Maybe this is not what you want to do. That's fine. You want to go research the people who are where you want and are doing what you want to do. And then you can reverse engineer the exact steps that they took. So with him, he started as a senior analyst. If you notice, it was just pretty much glorified high-end customer support. And this was the path he took to get there. You want to do that for about a dozen people so that you can map out your path. And then you'll know, okay, let's say your next, a lot of folks on here, you are going to be going into an entry-level position. Awesome. What is that entry-level position? And where are you coming in to this map? What rung of the ladder are you starting with based on your experience? Maybe it's entry-level, maybe you're a little bit beyond that. Where are you? That is going to be what you use to, actually, I'll come back to Leslie here. That's going to be what you use to build your resume. You're going to go research about 15 to 20 of the job descriptions that match that next role that you're looking for. And that's what you're going to use. You're going to identify the keywords, the skills, the tools, all of that good stuff that's repeated across those 15, 20 job descriptions. And 95% of your resume will come from this specifically. Now, I said I would backtrack here real quick to talk about Wesley. He's a perfect example. Doesn't matter if you're entry level or you are just transitioning into a new industry for the first time. He actually, this picture got cut off. Originally, this said that he studied aliens. He's coming out of college. But because he mapped out his career, he knew, okay, I want to be a senior level product manager with a tech company, with a large tech company. He knew that's what he wanted. He had an idea of his goal salaries, all that good stuff. And what he was able to do was get into a tech company, and he got in as a facilities coordinator. Now, he wasn't as concerned at this season of his life what this role was. Some people need to be a little bit more picky. He just knew, hey, I want to get in, and part of my compensation, I want to be, review so that I can grow. He was able to tell them, I'm willing to get in at any stage because I want to be a product manager with you guys. They said, okay, great. So he got in at $63,000. And then as soon as an associate product manager role was open, he grew to $77,000. So a small jump there. Then again, as soon as a product manager role was open, he grew to $90,000. Now, that role was ideal for him. That salary was not. So he used his resume and his LinkedIn profile because he had it set up the way you guys are about to learn. He had people reactively reaching out to him with product manager roles that he could look through and on his own time just kind of say yes or no to and keep an eye open for things. One came up that he liked with a pay that he liked. So he went and he made that transition. And then a little something called COVID happened in April, or in March, I guess. And this company laid off a ton of people just out of fear. What did he do? Because again, he went through each of the steps that you guys are going to learn today. It took him about 20 days to accept and start a new job, which ended up actually being, this was pretty darn close to his actual total career Nirvana. He got there in 5 years and doubled his salary. So this is a really cool thing. That's just his base salary. He's worth 7 figures with his total comp easily. That's a really important thing for you guys to know. And I'm sure some of you on here already, I can't see your faces right now, but it's that, okay, I showed up for resume help. Why is she talking about career mapping? Your resume is your career map is the foundation of your resume. And it's really important for you to know where you're going so that you can speak to that with your resume. And then also knowing the salaries and what to expect, the data points, and again, what your actual worth is. There's a ton of resources out there for any industry that you're going into to specifically find the salaries and what you're worth at each rung of that ladder. So you are not getting underpaid. So we can go ahead and skip back over to the resume part now, where it's, okay, step 1, map out your career. Once you have your next job that you know is right for you or that you think is right for you, then we can build the resume and LinkedIn profile. Now, something I want you guys to know is if you paid 100 professional resume writers to write your resume, you would spend a lot of money, but you'd also get 100 completely different resumes. And maybe being generous, 60 to 80 of them would be good. But as the title says, we're not looking for good, we are looking for perfect. And what we mean by perfect is your resume is perfect when recruiters and hiring managers reach out to you with the exact role or roles that you want. That is your litmus test to know whether or not you have a good resume and LinkedIn profile, which means some of the advice that you are going to hear today, the strategy that we're going to walk through, is going to be contrary to what you have heard. I love to use this example. Maybe I should have been an art major with my art skills here. If you picture a wheel of a bike here, and let's say success, this is a bike wheel. Success meaning landing high-paying job offers, accepting a high-paying job offer is at the center here. There are a lot of different ways to get here. Now, most people spend all of their time out here where they will jump from one piece of advice to another piece of advice to another piece of advice, and they will never get closer to the middle because they keep hopping from one mentor, one coach to another coach. That is the most turbulent spot of the wheel to be on. There is going to come a time in your career search, in your life, where you have to pick one way to get there and just follow it till you get to the success. So everything that I'm teaching you guys today has been proven. Again, this is the exact method that we've used for over 500 people. It has worked for them, and it is arguably one of the simplest methods out there, which means a lot of people will look at it and say, no, that's too simple. I just can't emphasize this enough. You don't have to overcomplicate it. It works. Are there other ways that work? Absolutely. I'm just sharing what I know for sure from our experience, what works and has worked for hundreds of people. So building the perfect resume. This is the nitty-gritty here. You want to use that career map to identify your next role, then research the 15 to 20 job descriptions. These are all of the same types of jobs. This is not looking for 15 different jobs. This is, hey, I want to be a junior developer, whatever the case may be. You're looking at 15 roles specifically for that, and identifying the repeated keywords in the experience and responsibility section to make sure that's what we're going to use to build your resume. So all of you have seen a resume before, or hopefully have seen. These are going to be the ingredients for your resume. The top, you'll have your name, your contact information, meaning typically a phone number and email address, and you do want to add your zip code, and I'll get to that in a bit. Then you'll have your summary section. This is where you put a brief summary of yourself, your skills, your tools, and your interests. We'll get to that in a minute. And then in either order, right below that, your education or your experiences and accomplishments. You can kind of flip-flop those if you'd like. And again, this is all going to be, 95% of this is going to come from your job descriptions from your career mapping exercise. So your summary, let's dive into that. This is an example of somebody, and actually I flipped the numbers here. They went from, I think it was 70 to 185, not that that really matters, but they grew quite a bit. This is the exact resume that they use to get their foot in the door. So you'll notice here, they start by going straight into their years of experience, their skill set, who they helped, what they achieved. That is how your summary should start. Then they go into their skills. These skills were all of the things that were mentioned with her research of those, again, 15 plus job descriptions. Same with the tools. And then her interests. Doesn't hurt to put this on. You just want to make sure, one, it's appropriate. It's completely optional. Make sure it's appropriate. And if you do it, you can show your personality. And it just, there's not a ton of Great Dane owners out there. If your hiring manager happens to also be a Great Dane owner, there's a potential for a bond there. So they typically can only help. They don't really hurt, again, so long as everything is appropriate on it. But notice, there's absolutely no room for fluff in your resume. Anything that is not quantifiable is fluff, which includes, but is not limited to, each of these words and phrases. Anything that is fast-paced, if you are a ninja of any sort, if you're dynamic, expert, all of these words you need to avoid like the plague. Motivated of any sort, team player, passionate, self-starter, hard worker, detail-oriented. Are all of these things important? Yes, but you saying them does nothing for the recruiter or the hiring manager other than make them not want to read your resume. None of these things actually mean anything to them. So what we want to do instead is share specific examples that show you are each of these things. Now, again, I mentioned, I put quite a bit in here. These are example summaries that you can use. I'm not going to read through all of them. There's quite a bit. This is more for you when you are watching the replay and actually writing your resume. You can refer back to this. There are different examples from different people, different industries, different jobs. So just go ahead and check this out in the replay. I'm just going to leave them on the screen here for a second or two, so it's a little bit easier when you're pausing it. And then we'll go through the format of them. Okay, so Again, they all follow the same format, and these are all resume summaries. I didn't pull these from like online. These are from people who we know the resumes converted well. Now, what does convert well means? These are resumes that got these people a ton of interviews for the exact roles they were looking for with companies that they admire. So here's the format. We always start with in the summary section, having X amount of years using an important skill set in the specific industry. So again, you are going to leverage the job descriptions that you have read to pull some of this. Obviously, the 5% that is yours is your personal data. Don't say, hey, I have 8 years of experience if you don't actually have 8 years of experience. That's the part that you are editing for you. I have X amount of, so 8 years of experience developing and executing global marketing and publicity campaigns in the entertainment industry. Great. Then you want to share information that your target audience wants to know. Obviously, your target audience is the recruiters and the hiring managers. So what do these people want? Exactly what was on the job description. Again, this is not lying. You want to make sure that you actually have experience doing these things, but it may just have to be translated from what you were doing into the language of the new role that you are getting. So for example, there's a ton of people who, let's say like product management is fresh on my mind. If you are, or even if you're becoming a developer, maybe you've never coded, but you likely are going to have experience, with organization and needing to lead a team or be efficient, be, different things that you can translate from what you have been doing into this, if you're coming into it from a past industry. So here's an example of using a job description to talk about what they've done. They have a successful track record creating product roadmaps and establishing cross-company buy-in for the product vision. They're seasoned at leading cross-functional teams, including, each of these departments. They have experience in the full product lifecycle, gathering and creating requirements, capturing user stories, documentation, managing complex projects from inception to launch, and tracking success metrics and sunsetting legacy projects, okay? These are all things that specifically were asked of them in the role descriptions, in the job descriptions. And then they also inserted a spot for skills. Again, this is just to really you want to have as many keywords from your job descriptions as possible. So this is a really good way to get them all in there, because we'll go through why this is important in just a minute here, but it's extremely important for you to have these keywords. Like, we can dive into it now. The reason for that is because your recruiters and hiring managers, they're going to spend about 7 seconds looking at your resume, and they're able to spend about 7 seconds and confidently say yes or no, because they're looking at your resume through a machine that highlights each of the keywords that they were looking for based on their job description. So if you have a resume that has a ton of highlights that says, hey, this person has X out of, they've got 20 out of the 25 keywords that you said were important, that is going to be very valuable for you to have that. Again, it is not about lying. Like, this is also a good way for you to know, hey, what do I need to learn so that I can put this on my resume? I'm not a fan of lying by any means. So again, I can't emphasize this enough. Most of the information that you are putting on your resume is coming from that job description that you research, the job descriptions you research. The more descriptions you read, the easier it's going to be for you to see these patterns of what is really important. It's important if it's repeated across multiple job descriptions. So does this make your your resume a bit longer than average? Absolutely. It also makes your recruiter and hiring managers' jobs easier, which is your number one goal, is to make their lives easier. That is how you get your foot in the door and can prove yourself in the interview process. So summary, that is checked. Hopefully, I can't see you guys. Normally I can see folks on Zoom. So if there are really big questions about that, obviously we will have time at the end, but feel free to unmute yourselves if need be. I think you guys can do that. Next is going to be your responsibilities. This is where your experience and your accomplishments come in. And there is a difference between experience and accomplishments. Experience are the projects, the initiatives that you worked on that you're really proud of, and your accomplishments are what that impact was for your company, the quantifiable impact. Very important. So in this section, people try to stuff as much as possible. They feel like they need to put everything they've ever done in this section, but that is the worst thing you can do. You should only have what's relevant to this job, okay? And you know it's relevant to this job because it showed up on your job description research. So, and a very important, I know most of you are going for entry-level roles, so the director, for alumni, if you're on here, if you're going for a more senior role, a director level role, you don't want to talk about all your associate experience. You want to put your resume write your resume in a way that shows that you are like poised and ready to step into a director level role because you have experience that is relevant to a director level role. Okay. Same thing if you're transitioning from industries. You don't need to highlight that you are brand new to the industry. What you want to highlight is how everything that you have done in your life up to this point has poised you, has put you in perfect position to crush this new job. All of the skills that you have been building are putting you in position to crush this job, which means you need to translate from one industry to another. We work with a lot of military vets, and it's pretty much like you've got to translate military speak into English, and then from English into specific job that you are looking for. Each job has its own language. Marketing has its own language of, CPC and CPM and, acquisition costs. Whereas coding, I mean, you guys know this, developers, you have your own language as well. All you need to do is be able to translate from one language to another, from one job, one industry to another. So formatting kind of do's and don'ts here, you have two options for this. And I'll show you example or pictures again that you can, when you're watching the replay, you can really go through. Option one is you have no more than 5 to 7 bullet points. This is better if you are younger in your career. And then option two, if you're going for more senior roles, you can write a small paragraph with 3 to 4 examples of key responsibilities right underneath. So this is option one. Again, this is better if you are younger in your career, where you just go through your responsibilities. Again, a lot of this is coming from the job description. And then option two, if you're more senior, sometimes it helps to have a little paragraph here of just being able to paint that picture. So then from there, we are going into the accomplishments section. So this is going to be no more than 3 to 5 bullet points. And just so that we're all on the same page here, I'm just going to show you. So again, this is your experience. This is for all of the bullets for this job. So this is the person's director of marketing job. These were their responsibilities. And then their accomplishments are right below that. So in that accomplishment section is where you will have the quantifiable, no fluff, no more than 3 to 5 bullet points. This is where you're talking about, I saved X amount of dollars or generated X, saved X, it's all quantifiable. So here is an example, again, from the same resume where the person went from 75 to 180. So here's what she did, her accomplishments, this is what she was responsible for that resulted in this quantifiable data right here. Again, this is what she did, and it resulted in this quantifiable data right here. Quantifiable data that came from doing this effort, okay? Very important that there's no fluff in here. Notice how there's nothing about being a ninja or self-motivated or any of that. It's what did you do? What were your quantifiable accomplishments? So I know we're coming up on time here to make sure you guys have time for questions. So I'm going to go through this again pretty quickly. You want to have 2 versions of your resume. A normal version, this is where there's nothing fancy. This is what you're uploading to job boards, okay? And you want it to be in as many places as possible. The other version is going to be a visually appealing resume. So for this version, the job board version, you want it to be normal because if you have fancy pictures or designs, the system may not read that. You want it to be very plain, very normal. The system will easily be able to read just a normal PDF. This is where, okay, so where I say, hey, remember that it operates like the MLS. For any of you who have bought a house or you are in the house buying market, if you see a house that has been listed for 90 days, especially in this market, you are going to say, why? Why has it been on the market for that long? Same thing with your resume. If you post a resume to a job board, it will show how long it has been on that job board. And recruiters and hiring managers, if they see that you have been there for 90 days, 50 days, they're going to say, wonder what's wrong with this person. And they likely won't waste their time. So each Sunday, you want to go in and update it with a small tweak. If you're in a major city, this is where the zip code comes into play. Just change your zip code from, there's however many in LA or Portland, wherever you're at. If there's multiple zip codes, you can just shift it to another one in your county or whatever makes sense. You can even edit commas or spaces and things like that. You just need to go in and update it, because what happens is as soon as it's been updated, this is what a recruiter will see on the back end. They see recently updated and it'll bring you right back up to the top. That's one of those hacks that no recruiter talks about. It's very simple for you to do. And then the other version of it is just a nicer version that you are directly giving to people. This is where you're not uploading it to a system, you're giving it to a person. We recommend using resume.io. It's quicker depending on your design skills, I guess you could say. It does cost $1. I think that may have gone up to $2 or $3 now, or Canva has a bunch of free options as well. And again, that's what it looks like once you update it. Here is an example of, again, it's a nicer looking resume. Just to clarify, I took screenshots of this. You should not put it out like this. You should save it as a PDF, the way a normal PDF is saved. But it looks a little bit nicer. It's got all the information for this person, their summaries here, their education, their skills. Again, these are all very keyword rich skills that they know because they've researched the job descriptions. I know I'm beating a dead horse there, but it's very important. And then interests, their projects. And again, right here is where they've got their experience, their responsibilities. They decided to do the paragraph form here, and then their accomplishments there. I'm not going to go through all of the words on it because obviously you guys can, on the replay, pause it and read through it and adapt it accordingly. And then going into your LinkedIn profile, once you're at this point, once you have your resume, that is the hardest spot. All the hard work is pretty much done. Your LinkedIn profile is just copying and pasting. So make sure you've got a nice headshot. That's important. The cover photo, we haven't noticed one works better than another. As long as it's appropriate, as long as it looks nice, it's fine, even if it's the LinkedIn cover, like the template one that they've got there. And then this is just very simple. She went even more than most people will. A lot of times you can just have, front-end developer or whatever role it is that you're looking for there. And then again, it's going to be a copy and paste. So your experience section here is just copy and pasted, and then your accomplishments copy and pasted right into each of the jobs that you've had. So then again, you're coming up, it should be very keyword rich. Actually, I skipped, I think a slide got skipped in here. Your summary section goes in your about section on the LinkedIn. So again, there are a ton of contradictions on the internet. I'm well aware that some of the things that are even in here probably go against some of the things that you've heard. I'm only sharing what I know works specifically from students that we know the data on it working. So again, these are resume myths that I have seen have not been relevant. Is this going to go against some of the gurus that are online right now that claim to be resume experts? Yes, absolutely. But your resume does not have to be one page, especially if you have more than 5 years of experience. If you have less than 5 years, yes, you should be able to keep it on one page. Otherwise, if you've got more than that, 2 to 3 pages max is completely fine. And your resumes, again, should not have your entire work history, especially if you're more senior. If you had retail experience and now you're going into, you've done 3 jobs since then and now you're going to be a developer, it does not make sense for you to share the retail experience. It should only be what's relevant, what you can translate to be relevant to this specific job you're looking for. Also a myth that it's okay to have grammar errors or spelling errors. Unfortunately, that one is not allowed. You need to make sure you edit, and you should have somebody proofing your stuff to make sure that there's no grammar. Unfortunately, that does make a big difference for a lot of people. Also a myth that you need a new resume for every job you apply to. it is important that you should study the job description for the specific company that you're applying to. So right before you apply, yes, double check that there's nothing glaringly missing. But once you've done your career mapping exercise, you should be going for the same role or the same type of roles. So you shouldn't need more than one resume. 2 versions of that resume, a clean one and a pretty one. And then another massive myth out there is that a great resume will get you the job. No, that is one of the worst myths out there, and why people spend so much time on their resume. It will not get you the job, and it will not get you competitive job offers. That is one of the worst myths out there. What will get you competitive job offers, what will get you the job are the words that come out of your mouth during the interview process. Your resume, you need to look at it as just your foot in the door. Now, I know we're coming up on time here, but I did want to give you guys just some added resources, or once you get the interview. So you know your resume is good when you are getting interviews, when you're getting recruiters and hiring managers reaching out to you. But then that is where like the rubber really meets the road. Up until this point, it's pretty scientific. Once you're in the interview, we've got time for a couple of tips here, so I'll just walk through. Always start with this question. As soon as you walk into your interview, this should be the first question that you're asking them. You just say, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. I'm really excited to get started and learn more about your company as well as this position, and discuss how I may or may not be able to add value. But before we get started, I'm really curious to know, what was it about my resume or background that made you decide to speak with me? The reason why you ask this is because it's the equivalent of you walking into a test and getting handed the answer key of that test, and them saying, hey, here you go, good luck. They're telling you exactly what you should focus on during that interview. And then similarly, at the end, you always end with the same question. You say, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me and for providing more light on the position and telling me more about yourself. Before we wrap up, I want to ask, is there anything about my experience or any of my answers that concerns you about my ability to perform this job at a high level, or to move on to the next round of the interview process? If so, I'd love the opportunity to clarify or confirm any of your hesitations. Now, why do we ask this? Especially for you guys you're going into a brand new industry. Most likely they're going to say, hey, I'm a little nervous that you don't have any real experience in doing X. So this is where you should know this. And going into that interview, you should have practiced using your resume as your pre-work there, to have an experience in the accomplishments. So the experience is the project, the initiative that you worked on, where you had to be a quick learner, and the accomplishment, the result that had on your company. So let's say, hey, I'm nervous you don't have this experience. Thank you so much for bringing this up. That actually reminds me a lot of when I first started working at, X Place. I didn't know how to do this thing. So I was really fortunate that a mentor showed me how to do it. I worked late. I worked on the weekends to figure out how to do this, and it resulted in this for the company. You want to share with them that you're a quick learner, not say, oh, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it, I'm a quick learner. Massive difference there. Now, I know we are coming up on questions here. I have quite a bit more in terms of like negotiation, stuff like that, but I wanted to I'll go ahead and I will stop sharing here so that I can see questions, because as I promised, I wanted to make sure there's plenty of time for that. And then if we've got time at the end, I can go into some of the last steps there. So with the questions here, do you have a resume template that you can share? Perfect. Yes. The one that I shared in the screen, the one that I shared in the slides, that's a really great one that a lot of people will use. And let's see, we'll have, yes, what should I do if you don't get hired? So if you don't get hired, it's not a matter of, okay, it's not binary, yes, I will get hired, no, I won't get hired. It's if you don't land this specific job, what should you do? You continue with the process, right? So it may mean, look at where the bottleneck is. If you are not getting any interviews, that likely means that you have a resume or LinkedIn issue, okay? If you are getting a ton of issues, or you're getting a ton of interviews, but you're not getting any offers, that means you've got an interview issue. You've got to work on that. So you're getting a ton of offers, but none of them are the dollar amount that you want. Okay, that means you've got a negotiation issue. You've got to go in there. But it's not a yes or no, am I going to get hired? It's where's the bottleneck that I need to fix, and go fix that specific bottleneck. But my question is, I came to this meeting. This is not what I'm hearing. Hopefully that was at 4:18. So hopefully you feel differently.
Yeah, that was at the beginning. So yeah, you covered it after.
I am currently learning cybersecurity and coding. No questions yet. I'm loving this info. Happy to hear, James. Katie is a pro. This is great. Thank you. How many pages should a resume be? Yeah, so if you've got less than 5 years of experience, you should probably be able to get it onto 1 page. If you've got more than 5 years of experience, then no more than 3 pages. Typically 2 to 3 should get the job done. Can we see an example of what the resume looks like for a recruiter so we can see how it gets parsed by the machine? Yes, I actually don't have, you could Google image that. I guess I could Google image that right now. If we've got time at the end, I'll do it. It's pretty much just picture a highlighter. So let's say this person needed, Python, like needed X amount, these different types of languages that you needed to know. It would just highlight, picture like you highlighting a textbook. Yes, they have this, they have this, they have this. Is LinkedIn's top applicant tool somewhere where we can judge? So one of the best tools that I've come across is jobscan.co. There's a free version of it. And if you upload your job description in your resume, it will show you very similarly, it'll highlight and it'll give you a score. Anything that is 75% or above is good. You're good to go there. It does not have to be 100%. They are trying to get you to buy their paid services. 75% or above, you're in good shape. Is PDF or a doc better for that? PDF or a doc works great. Yes, Lauren's here who said always use PDF. So what you see is what they see. If it's something that is in terms of like design, it's not just something that you're uploading to the job board where just a system is going to read it, then PDF, you know for sure that you don't have any orphaned headers, things like that. What about my skills that are 20 plus years old? They're likely not going to be relevant to this specific job. So you want to only include the things that are very relevant. Again, 95% of it should come from your job descriptions. Thanks, I always default. Yeah, if they ask for a doc, no biggie there. I've been in retail before. I've worked in greenhouses and I used to be a school janitor. Okay. Let me know if there is a question there. I think it was just, that was when I was talking about if you've got experience doing a bunch of things. You want to only include what is relevant for this specific job that you're going for. When is a good time to discuss salary and try to get the maximum? Great question. So they will ask you, hey, what are your salary expectations? And that's where you should have, so some people will ask, hey, what are you currently making? Some people will ask, what are your salary expectations? And I don't think, I'm going to give you guys a link here just in case we don't get through all of these questions. I had like another 20 slides here, but if you guys do have follow-up questions, I think you should still be able to see my screen here. No. I'll give you a link that you guys can send out at the end, where if you do have specific questions, I asked our coaches to open up their calendars for you guys to book like a free career strategy session on. So I'll make sure you guys have that link to send out to folks. So especially for things like negotiations, that's where it goes, that's fairly in depth. So I'll give you the bullet points here of if somebody asks you about your current salary or your expected salary, some states it's illegal. You never have to tell somebody your current salary in a job hiring process. Instead, what you say is, well, the companies that I'm currently talking to are are offering between X and Y, and that's a range that I'm extremely comfortable with. Now, you pull those data points from your research, from your experience, knowing what those skills are worth, and the X, your low point, should be slightly higher than the lowest number that you're willing to accept. The Y is typically about 35% greater than X. So when is a good time? You'll have to be ready for that with the recruiter or the first person they talk to. They're going to ask you, hey, what's your salary expectations pretty early on, so that they know, okay, yes, are we even in the same range of expectations here? Or are you looking for 300 and this only has a budget of 120? So you want to have that prepped and ready to go. And then when discussing or when countering your salary, they will, once you make it through the interview rounds, they will present you with an offer if you obviously do everything right. And once they present you with that offer, you want to counter it with 3 options. You can be very grateful, say thank you so much. And then you give them option 1 is going to be a higher salary, the high range of that range you gave them. Option 2 is going to be more medium, plus perks that are really important to you. That may be vacation time, that may be performance bonuses, that may be a title that's really important for you to help you along your career map. Whatever matters to you, remote work, things like that. Option 3 is a lower salary, but get in writing that you will review it in 6 months or 12 months down the road to and set metrics where it's, if I hit this, we get a pay increase. So that's the part of the process where you are really trying to maximize your salary or making sure you're actually getting paid what you're worth, is after they present an offer, then you can negotiate that. I'm receiving interest from recruiters, but positions that aren't right for me. Either salary is too low or it's an in-office and I want remote. So that's where you've got to you likely have to tweak your resume, tweak your LinkedIn, and then also realize that that part can come in the negotiation. So leveraging that strategy that I just shared, that's where, I guess I could stop presenting here. I just realized you guys can probably all see my screen. That is where you want to back up those negotiation points with real data from real world and your experience. What is keyword stuffing? So keyword stuffing is when sometimes it has a negative connotation where it's just, hey, you've put all of your keywords in and it's very clear that you literally copy and pasted, and this isn't really what you have experience doing. Like, it's just keywords that doesn't make sense. It doesn't flow. There's no narrative. There's no you interweaved into it. That's like the negative connotation of it. Then keyword optimization is what we've been talking about, where you're making sure that you're including all of those relevant keywords in combination with your narrative of what you have actually done. That's where it's not, hey, how can I lie and say I did this? That is not what you're doing. It's how is my experience transferable to this new position? What's the best way to practice for interviews? That's a good question. So you want to have, when you look at your job, again, this whole process that we're going through, maybe I should make this like a bare minimum 90-minute presentation moving forward. So that interview process, your resume is really your prep for your interviews in a lot of ways. So you should have, underneath each of your past job descriptions, you have both your experiences, your responsibilities, and your accomplishments, the quantifiable impact those experiences had on your company. You want to have about 5 of them practiced. 5 projects, initiatives, things that you worked on that you are really proud of, that you could say, like, you just know it. You know that example. You could say it to your 8-year-old niece if you wanted to, and she would understand what you're talking about. Once you have that down pat, you can answer just about any question that's thrown at you using those 5 examples. So again, it should be things that were big initiatives that you're really proud of, that you accomplished something. And then you'll be able to use those as leverage for when you are sharing with your interviewer, hey, like, tell me about a time you did this, or how would you handle this situation? You want to have those things in your back pocket practice where you're clearly articulating what you did and the impact that had on your company, the community, whatever the case may be. That's the best thing that you can do to prepare for interviews. There's a whole lot. If there are people on here who do need added interview help, I mean, that's a whole beast in and of itself. That's a whole process to prep for those. Yes, mock interviews, very important. Star stories, very important. Yes, where it's that situation, your task, the action, the result. That's a great format for you to follow. Awesome. It looks like with 1 minute to spare, we got through the questions there. Yeah, so for any of you guys who do, if you feel like you need added help, definitely we'll make sure you guys have links to access different resources and things that we have. What if we don't have any experience in the field? I want to enter outside of my boot camp and tech-related hobbies. Yeah, great question. That's where you want to find what is transferable for you. So it doesn't always have to be direct experience. And for you in particular, that's that example of at the end when you ask your interviewer, hey, do you have any concerns? That's likely going to be one of their concerns. Hey, you don't have any experience. So you want to make sure you've got transferable experience where it's, I didn't know how to do, like, look at the jobs that you've already done. Pick some of them that you didn't have any experience actually doing beforehand. How did you learn those things quickly? Have that experience, have that, you can use that STAR format there, the situation, what you had to learn, the action you took, the result, the impact it had for your company. Have that in your back pocket as a story that you can share. And then also it's about being able to compound your skills or add on your skills the same way. A great example of this is, okay, before you went to college or high school, pick whatever level of school you were nervous to go into. Before you went to high school, you were probably nervous about going to high school. But even though you had never been to high school, you had never gone into that world, you have a lot of experience going into preschool for the first time, then going into kindergarten, brand new school for the first time, then middle school. Like, you've had other experiences, or being on a sports team for the first time, where you have gone into something new that you can draw on your experiences of human interaction and how you're doing things. Those are going to be the things that you just have to transfer to how is that relevant for this new job, this new industry. That's where it becomes really valuable to spend this time going through building your resume, going through the job descriptions, because you can list, hey, here are all the experience and responsibilities that they're asking me for. List them all down on a piece of paper. Then in a column right next to that, write down a project or something that you've worked on that you can draw on to say, hey, like, yeah, I've never done it in this capacity, but I've done it in this capacity. And then have that as an example that you can use in the interview process. Let's see. Oh, and you promised a link to book a free session with a coach. Yes. Those are application. So you can apply for a strategy session. I'll give you guys the link right now. And I believe you'll get it with a replay as well. Even if you're not a good fit for a strategy session, we will send you free resources based on your responses to that. On wherever you're at, we'll give you different resources to help you get to the next stage to move you along. Let's see here. And here is the link for you to apply. Let's see, how do you deal with overqualified and underpaid? Able to get a lateral move, however, never upward. This makes the interviewer question you and your abilities. Good question. So how do you deal with overqualified and underpaid? So this is where you need to be able to present yourself as somebody who is ready to step into these higher roles, right? So it really helps to have that your career mapped out, so that you know, okay, here's where I'm aiming for, and being able to articulate what you're aiming for in your interviews. And then this is the next rung, and here how's everything I've done up until this point has prepared me for this rung, and here's where I'm growing to. If you're able to set those expectations with your hiring manager, That's where you'll be able to have a lot of internal growth if you're applying to the right companies, obviously, where you'll be able to have just internal growth within that company each time you prove yourself. So it's very important for you to, again, go through that process of knowing what is it that they're actually asking for and how are you prepared to step into that role. Very important. And it's kind of like again, the resume, the LinkedIn profile is very scientific, kind of cold, where it's a very easy binary. Is it good? Is it not? The interview is where you've got to really work on you and your presentation of yourself and how you articulate where you've been and where you're going. Let's see here, and here is a link. Awesome, cool. Any other questions? I know we blew through that pretty quickly here, but any other questions from folks, whether on the resume and LinkedIn profile specifically, or the stuff that comes kind of before, in, and around that? Cool. All right, then.
No, great presentation, Katie. That's really good information for our students and for everyone that attended. Really kind of inspirational. I'm not looking for a job, and I'm kind of motivated to do it now.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that was great stuff. One question I do have for you, with kind of COVID coming to an end now and what we've been through the last couple of years, how do you see things are different now with people searching?
Great question. So one of the biggest things is there's a lot of people who have gotten used to remote that enjoy remote. And that sometimes it is now shifting where everything was remote for a while. It's now shifting a bit to where it's hybrid is still very popular, but that's one of the biggest like lifestyle changes in terms of the interview processes themselves. Pretty much everything is still all remote. There are very few in-person interviews that people are doing. That is slowly starting to change, but really how the landscape has changed is since people have been forced to rely on technology a little bit more, they have a lot better kind of weeding out processes that are automated and technical. So it's like you now will do this, it's far more normal to have a one-way interview where it's just you and your computer and you're talking to yourself, and it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable. Those things are going to become more and more prevalent, especially as AI and things come in and can weed out fits and no fits, which is, again, why it's so important for bulk of what you're doing. You have to be really focused on the role, the specific role you want, and know what's being asked of you in that role. Know what problem you are solving for the specific company that you're going to be working with. That is hands down the most important thing, is being able to articulate how you can solve those problems for the hiring manager and for the company, and you will come and be like a godsend versus a hire. You need to be, oh my gosh, you are the perfect person to solve our problems right now.
Good stuff. And now, Lucy, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie, for that presentation. That was great. We do have another Tech Talk next Friday with Corey Altoff. He's going to be hosting a workshop on APIs. So if you're interested, I will put the link in the chat box for everybody, along with the Tech Academy's website link, our Tech Talk link, and then I'll also include Katie's LinkedIn in there, just in case. All of those are pasted in the chat box now. And yeah, so this talk will be put on our YouTube channel. Links are in the chat box. And thank you again, Katie, for presenting.
Yeah, absolutely. And any questions you guys have, feel free to reach out. My LinkedIn's on there. You can feel free to message me on there. And yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, really good. I like the way you had your points were kind of take control and model your career. And I think that's great. A great way to approach it.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, then I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.
All right, Katie. Thank you.
So much. Bye.
Yeah, we'll see you. All right. Thanks everyone for coming out, and definitely do tune in for our next Tech Talk next Friday. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great weekend.